Hi, and welcome to B&E Presents the Trend. This is episode 17, and it is titled Increasing Your Visibility for Building Strategic Relationships. I'm Alviana Brewster. I am your founder, and I am the CEO of Black Nurse Entrepreneurs, also known to you as B&E. We are the premier networking organization for Black nurses who are interested in launching, in building, and growing their entrepreneurial endeavors. In this episode, we have a special guest by the name of Mrs. Amelia Roberts. She is the owner of Solutions by Amelia. Amelia Roberts is a digital native who officially became a practitioner of online marketing 12 years ago with a role as a virtual assistant. Student loans from nursing school inspired her to put her love of social networking, observing human nature, showing empathy, and previous marketing expertise to work in new ways. As a result, she was able to pay off her student loans in under 2 years as a social media market manager. Now, alongside other roles, you can find Amelia helping under-recognized leaders clearly articulate their unique value, get first dates, and scale their sanity so that they can scale their professional visibility and become pivotal players in industry shaping conversations, all while maintaining work life harmony. Without further ado, I present to you our visibility queen, Miss Amelia Roberts. How are you today, Miss Amelia?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. So, first and foremost, thank you for joining us tonight.
Of course.
And I I also would like to thank you for being a pivotal part of the BNE community. Amelia's been around us for some time now. She's helped us out in so many different ways, including me personally. So I thank you for everything that you've done to help our community to grow.
Oh,
Um,
no.
I would like to say at this time, first off, tell us a little bit about Amelia. How did you even get into nursing?
We share a story in that way. My mom was a nurse, or yeah, well, she was a nurse, and that was sort of like the option. It wasn't like a too many options of what you're going to do when you grow up. Long story short, I have always enjoyed technology, and I thought I would go to school to learn some sort of computer skill. But she was like, you know what? If you go to nursing school, I'll pay for your tuition. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a wise business proposition. So that's how I ended up in nursing.
Okay, so that does sound like the exact same story. My mom was like, I'm gonna be a nurse and you're gonna be a nurse and I'll pay for only nursing school." And she teases me when I say that because she's like, I was just playing, but she honestly said, she told me, you got to go to college and I'm only paying for nursing school. So it sounds the
Same,
exact same.
same.
Great. So you have a little bit of a different story because you branched out, like you said, into virtual assisting and helping businesses to become more visible. Explain to us and our audience exactly what does that mean?
Sure. So I come from a background, a family of entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
My uncle supported his family for a time as a jazz musician. My baby cousin, his daughter, is a photographer. That was like sort of around me. And I love entrepreneurs. I love helping them survive and thrive. That might sound a little nursey to some people, but businesses are an extension of us as humans. They can survive, thrive, they can die. And I've always viewed entrepreneurship and business as like a form of healing. Entrepreneurship, the process, is a form of healing for you. It's a form of healing for your clients and how you help them. So I just naturally had an affinity to helping small business owners, thrive and be seen as a solution that people are looking for.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So, how is it? Let me ask specifically because I wanted to touch on some pretty important things. Why would you say that it is important, especially for our B&E community? Why is that brand visibility so important for their businesses?
A few different reasons. In 2020, there's a unique time of diversity consciousness. Unfortunately, because of the murder of Mr. Floyd just a few months ago, there is now a heightened sense of awareness of diversity of Black people that should have been there a long time ago. It should have been there, period. But long story short, I'm just working with reality. We're in a unique time of diversity consciousness. So people are looking for Black people, Black women, Black founders, in a way that they have not been before. And people have their feelings about that, but that's the truth. So the timing is like one reason to get out there, even if you were hesitant before, because people are actually looking for us in ways that they weren't. A second reason is that because I am Black, I know that there are different challenges that I have that the majority doesn't have. Like when I look at rates of when we get to choose our own value as a business, when we get to put our value on ourselves compared to the majority counterparts. I can't remember the number of the average business, how much the average business makes for the woman of the majority, but it's up there. And
Mhm.
then when Black women, when we choose our rates, we choose poverty line. That's
Mhm.
like I can give you the links to those articles, but that's just sort of fact. So because of that, showing up for yourself and your business is so essential because no one is necessarily going to do it for you. No one is going to come save you. No one is necessarily going to find a stage for you and tell you need to come on and then pull you on the stage and shine. No one really is going to do that because one, even in this time of unique diversity consciousness, no one is still like really looking for us, and just because of a lot of stuff, Black women, when we do have contributions or when we do say things, sometimes it's still being credited to other people. So it really is necessary for us to craft and control our own narrative, take advantage of the plethora of resources and tools and platforms out there to share our own story. Because in Michelle Obama's book, she said, our story is what we own, it's what we have.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that answered your question specifically, but it's absolutely crucial. It's vital. It's necessary for life. All of those things for us to be our own advocate and representative of our business, because that isn't necessarily going to come from some mysterious other outward source necessarily.
Gotcha. What would you say for the nurse entrepreneur? Because, especially in this day and age of the social media and live streams and stuff like that, there are a lot of us that are very introverted, don't really want to be on these platforms. We just want to run our business and let it just run. But um, I think it is important to have the conversation that nowadays so much of business is done online via social media, and that visibility is really crucial. How we're connecting with our audience, whether it's live streaming to Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, or whether it's via podcasting or what have you. So, what would you say to that introverted person? How do they kind of get over that and still understand their purpose and the benefit, I guess I would say, of the visibility?
First, you asked amazing questions. I wanted you to get it out of paper and pen to like write down your questions that you're asking to make sure that I answer them. So please keep me honest to answering
Yes,
the
yes, yes,
questions.
yes, yes.
So what would I say to the introvert?
Hmm.
One, shout out to my introverts. I am a fellow introvert. A lot of people don't believe that. I think I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I'll be extroverted when I have to be, but like after if I hmm, so time block, like after I have a time when I am, showing up and going live or doing an interview or doing a presentation, I have to block out time to recover. Like I
Hmm.
need my quiet time. Pre-COVID, when I would go out and present at a workshop or event or a stage, that afternoon I had to block it off. I couldn't do anything else.
Hmm.
Sometimes even the next day, I'd have an introvert hangover if there was like networking involved because I still wasn't ready, fit for consumption. It was a thing. So for the introverts, just be aware of that. Know what you need to do to sort of recover from that. Another thing that I realized is that it's not about me. People are less concerned about me. Um, People aren't concerned about me. People really aren't concerned about me. They care
Hmm.
about the problem that I solve.
Yeah.
They care about the problem that I solve. It's just like, in a way, being a nurse, right? How we show up and take care of people. The people that we take care of care if our hair looks a certain way or if we have a certain shade of blah, blah, blah. No, they care that we're in the room to solve a specific problem. And the same thing for our business. It's like when we think about marketing and we think about yeah, we think about marketing and showing up and being visible. Don't think of it as it's time to go, show off your wares or whatnot. Think of it as being time to show up and serve people who
Sure.
need what you have to offer. Serve people who are looking for you, or else, someone less reputable, someone less honest, someone less trustworthy, someone less with less expertise will serve them. And
Mhm.
then and those people will end up in like a worse state. And even though what I do is not necessarily a matter of life and death. I, in the course of being in business in 4 years, I've seen people who I could have worked with, I could have helped. When I first started out in business, even 4 years later, they're still in the same Facebook groups asking the same daggone questions.
Mm.
Or 4 years later, offered to invite them to figure out how I can help them, and make sure that they are set, and making sure that people know about them. 4 years later, they're still asking about so I don't know what the use is having a client avatar. Why do I need a client avatar? And it's like, really, that's
Yeah.
so interesting. So, one, I tell the introvert to think, if you don't serve the people who need you, who will? And there's good high likelihood out there in these internet streets, there's somebody who won't be as qualified as you are that's going to come up and, and maybe lead these people off in the wrong direction.
Mm. What if a person is like, well, I don't know how to attract my target audience. Like, I'm not interesting. I have a service or a product, but I don't really know how I need to go about marketing myself to them. What would you say to that person?
So I don't know who said this first, but there was a few studies out there. How do you? So I'm going to answer it by saying this is how you be the most interesting person in the room. Well, there's a few ways you can be the most interesting person in the room.
Hmm.
Everybody is tuned into station WIIFM. What's in it for me? Everybody cares about that. So when you lead with talking about problems, talking about pain points that can resonate with the people that you're trying to attract, one, a couple things are going to happen. Two, they will hear their name being called. They're like, oh, she's talking about, mothers who are, say you're a health coach and you offer support around helping people maintain energy. You are interesting to people by talking about mothers who are trying to do all the things. They can't keep up with their kids under three the way they could with their first set of kids. Say it's like an older mother, right? She raised a group of kids or something like that, and she had surprises that came along, and she's just realizing she doesn't have the same amount of stamina to keep up with these kids.
Hmm.
So she's looking for something different. She's looking for help. But in any case, when you talk about problems, that's going to make you attractive. That's what's going to make you attractive. It's nothing that we awaken with innately that makes us so interesting. It's just, people turn their heads, when they, hear problems that resonate with them. They're like, oh, wow, they're talking about, something that I need. What are they saying? Because, we want to survive and thrive. So that's just going to make whatever you say absolutely interesting. And people also like to talk about themselves too. That kind of falls into, comes into choosing, I guess, marketing channels that you use is there's a lot of ways to get content from people that you serve or could serve
Hmm.
by saying that you'll feature them. You're not saying actually feature them on your platform.
Hmm.
There's different ways that you can. We'll talk about this a little later with strategic partnerships, but how to be the most interesting person in the room is one, invite people to share their stories and talk about themselves, and two, talk about the problems that they have.
Okay. Yeah, so that actually leads me. I was going to ask you about the strategic relationships. Um, again, it takes me back to a lot of times we have an idea or a product that we think is great, but and I know at least for me, especially in the B&E community, it's been those strategic relationships and partnerships that I've created that has helped me along the way. And I wouldn't even, me myself, I wouldn't even say it's anything just extremely fancy. It was about me showing up and being honest and genuine and being truly who I am. What would you say about that? How can people build those strategic relationships? And why do you feel like that is important to their business?
So first, why? Let me see. I'm just gonna write this down. Why it's important, and then how to do it. Just so
Yes,
I make
yes,
sure. Okay, so
yes.
why it's important. that's just how business is done. I wish I had a better answer to it, but when you look at the Targets and the IBMs and the Apples of the world, Apple partners with Nike, um, Starbucks partners with Tavana. Starbucks didn't say, "Hey, I need to figure out how to start making tea." They just partnered with somebody that was already doing it.
Really?
Nike didn't say, "Oh, we need to start, figuring out computers so we can get people to wear Fitbits or whatnot." They partnered with people who are already doing it, and just all sorts of collaborations that are happening now. That's just what businesses do. That's just their method of operation is partnerships, collaborations, JVs, joint ventures of various
Mhm,
sorts. It doesn't
mhm,
actually have to look like you signing over a part of your business to someone else. It can be sort of what you mentioned, just like something that's sort of informal and whatnot. That's just how business done. No one is building like their audience or getting customers by themselves. No one's doing it. Not the Amy Porterfields of the world, not the Marie Forleos of the world. They all, whenever they're launching something, you always see them on someone else's podcast, webinar,
mhm,
email list. They're all doing it. Nobody does it by themselves. So I don't know if that answers the why. Exactly. Did that answer the
mhm,
why?
mhm,
The answer the why. Okay.
absolutely.
Um, and how do you do it? It just takes brainstorming. There's a process that I use that I recommend to my clients that in a book that I read. I don't know if I have the book. Oh, yes, I do. Hold on one second. Um, it's in this book that I have. I don't know if it's backwards, that I read probably a few times, maybe twice a year.
Mhm.
But it talks about, I have like all these notes in the back of it.
You're using it well.
Yes, use it well. But it's called the Ultimate Sales Machine, and it talks about the Dream 100 process. You know, where you don't need to have like 1,000. You don't need to have like 2,000 people to make a difference, to move a needle in your life.
Mhm,
You just need to be connected. He uses 100, but it may not even be 100. I use a modified 25, but there are like 25 people that if you partner with, it could make the world of difference for you. An example would
mhm,
be, and then I'll get to the how. Would be like thinking about Oprah's favorite things. What would a mention from like a Oprah of your industry or your local Oprahs? What would that do for your business? What would
mhm,
one mention? Oprah saying, you know what, you need to try this service from blah blah blah, or so and so is a really great person. I haven't used her product, but she seems really nice. You might want to check her out. If you, what could one yes or endorsement from someone like that do? And so the how is, think about who has the attention of your potential clients, who is influencing them before they come to you, alongside working with you, after working with you, and then just brainstorm. And
mhm,
then you start to brainstorm, some of the things that people need before they get to you, while they're working with you and after, and just brainstorm what those services look like. And then from there, as you start to brainstorm, you can start to see, oh, you know what, there's a podcast related to blah, 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 or so and so. They have a Facebook group, and that's kind of starts to get into the how. I have a podcast called Confident Collaborations where
mhm.
I go into more details about, how to actually do that, because I could take up the rest of the time talking about that. But some of the how, I guess, starts back to with brainstorming, about, again, your ideal clients, their pain points, what they're struggling with, and who else is supporting them, who else knows the crazy, as I say, too.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. So, how about, and I guess my next question was going to be, how can a nurse entrepreneur be featured as a guest expert? And it kind of leads into exactly what you're saying with building those strategic partnerships. Um, I think it's basic to really reach out to the people that have the target, maybe the target audience that you're looking for,
Hmm.
and providing them with a solution. What would you say?
Yeah. And people say, well, why would someone want to share their audience with me? I don't have that, much of a following. I'm just kind of starting out. Why would someone want to open up their hard-earned audience to me? I can't give them anything in return. And, or how do I even like reach out to somebody? I don't have anything to give them. What's my leverage? And a few things, a few things I like to say, invite people to consider, is that one, you are a nurse.
Mm,
You're a nurse. Typically, a lot of these coaches out here, um, all of these coaches out here, they don't typically have a nursing education.
right.
It's not formal. So They may have happened upon some sort of thing that supported them in some health way, and now they're calling themselves something. I don't know. I'm just this is like just being super vague.
Mhm.
Um, and so you'll say, hey, health coach person, I noticed that you serve, when older women who have young kids. I'm a nurse with a background in blah, blah, blah. I'm curious if your audience would be open to learning about how to get better sleep. And so
Mm.
that coach would want you to come into their audience to educate their audience on, what you do and how you help. An example that I use is, say there's a nurse who specializes in gluten-free living and gluten-free coaching. She helps people become gluten-free. A good partnership for her would look like a gluten-free chef, like
Mhm.
a chef, that has, every week people gathered around this chef to watch him cook, delicious, dishes. And hey, gluten-free chef, I'd like to share your audience with, ways to help, get their family on board with, gluten-free eating. Would you be open to, me educating our audience about that or something like
Mhm.
that?
Mhm.
That's
It
just an
makes sense.
example. So, so one, it's like you bringing in your specific expertise is a value add to that group, because as a group owner, you know how challenging it is to come up with content and to
Yes.
keep a group going. So
Yes.
if somebody's willing to come into your group and educate, how do you feel about that?
Exactly. And you know, I was going to mention that. Here's the thing: newspapers, magazines, radio shows, podcasting, all of those different types of media outlets need content. They need it, they want it. And so, of course, those are prime opportunities for the nurse entrepreneur. And like you say, we have a very strategic, specialized skill set, especially if y'all are not taking advantage of this COVID season. I don't know what to tell y'all, because you have the expertise, you have the knowledge to go on to whatever media outlet you want to and just tell at minimum how people can stay safe, or how to put on PPE, whatever. We have that already in us. We do it all the time. And whatever your specialized business is, this is still a great opportunity. Like you said earlier, people are looking for, I for whatever reason, all of a sudden they realize that they're Black people in America. And so they're looking for
I
our
am.
knowledge. They're looking
Yes.
for our experience. And what does it mean to be a Black American? Here's your prime time to get that increase in visibility. So yes, I strayed off just a little bit, but I remember somebody saying that there's so many different types of media outlets, and they're craving for content, and they don't want to have to always create that content. So it is really important to kind of pitch yourself out there. What would you say about that? How do I go up? Do you have experience maybe in helping your clientele pitch to magazines and newspapers and stuff like that to get visibility?
Yes. So there are a few outlets that, well, so journalists or people who create content for these outlets, they just can't be making stuff up.
Hmm.
They need to have credible sources. So there are a few outlets that they use to find these credible sources. Help a Reporter Out is one of them. It's been around for a while. They, release requests for experts a few times a day, actually, and I've gotten placements through there. I've responded and been quoted in magazines from there. I suggest that your audience, definitely, sign up. For those who have virtual assistants or support, that could be a task for your virtual assistant. Every
Hmm.
week or at the end of the day, report to me the outlets that we should pitch. Or they expire so quickly. I wouldn't say weekly reports, but sort of at the end of the day, just report off to you if there's something that that's a task you can hire someone to help you with.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's that. And I'm sorry, what did you ask again? You used to mention you mentioned, oh yeah, so yeah, help a reporter out is a way to do it. Also with any outlets, whether it's like podcast or if you see somebody that's maybe does um, I don't know, virtual events or associations. That's another thing. Associations and memberships, they need speakers. They need, they still need speakers. They still need people to come in, and educate their audience that has paid their annual dues already. Even
Hmm.
though, we're not meeting in person, they still have to provide content for the audience. So they're still needing support. And the nice thing about, pitching yourself to memberships and associations is they typically have a process for speakers. It's not pitching yourself for podcasts is a little different. You do have to be a little personalized and more, yeah, you have to be more personalized and do a little bit more research. With associations, it's like, what's your process for, having speakers?
Mhm.
That's pretty simple, and that can be something you can also delegate to a virtual assistant. Just have them get a list of associations that need speakers or help you fill out forms. Um, and then yeah, podcasting. A little more research has to go into it because the podcast host, that's their personal brand, right? They
Mhm.
literally have built up their audience by hand. It's taken a lot of work, and they're not necessarily going to just be like, "Oh yeah, come right on in," and educate my audience. You do have to, sort of do an assessment, look for the gaps and their needs, and say, what, I've noticed that the past few episodes you've talked about XYZ, but you haven't actually talked about ABC. Would you be open to this? Because or I know that people in your audience are kind of curious about this, that, and the other,
Mhm.
you know, with a presentation about this serve them. But that's just off the top of my head.
Mhm. It makes
But
sense.
yeah.
It makes perfectly good sense,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that. Um, why I want to ask you, why do large brands want to connect with nurse entrepreneurs even if they're just getting started?
So so I'm literally working with a large brand, a pretty huge company, and they're looking for micro influencers. And the micro influencers, they have, literally, I don't like this term, boots on the ground, but they have boots on the ground,
Mhm.
and they have contact with actual humans in ways that the larger brand just doesn't. You can't, you don't show up you don't show up every day, or when Target goes live, you don't necessarily tune into them to see what they're talking about.
Mm,
They do that with people, right?
I get it.
Yeah, so they need a human touch, and you throw some expertise behind that bad boy like nurses have. It's a very, very easy solution. And the only thing I would say is definitely on the flip side, nurses, just know your worth. Know your worth. As somebody who helps brands, large brands, figure out micro influencer strategies, figure out influencer marketing, I can tell you that if you don't value what you have to offer, please don't expect the brand to value.
Mm.
And I also say that as someone who I've been paid as an influencer myself. So I I think when I first did it, I didn't charge enough. We never charge enough, when we first start anything. We don't. And then my eyes got open to what other people are charging. I was like, oh, didn't realize I could ask that. Again,
I know.
no one's coming around with invitations. Nobody, it's all good. But in any case, I sort of forgot what I was saying. Um but yeah, so in any case, larger brands want to collaborate with, people who are even just starting out, because you, one, have that expertise, and two, you are small. You do have a closer connection with people, and that's what they need and they don't have.
I've never even thought about that, but it makes perfectly good sense, especially like those bigger brands like you're talking about. They're not going to be going live or whatever, but if you take somebody like me that may have an audience, a 20, 50,000 person audience, and it's more of an intimate connection,
Yes.
but I can see them collaborating and connecting, and I just love nurses, that area, because we're just so specialized and we have a very, very cool skill set that we can kind of do anything. And I don't think a lot of people really respect exactly all the things that we can do. So it kind of too is up to us to continue to push our message forward, to continue to push our expertise forward. And again, that's through just the visibility. We need to be, that's why I always talk about us being the trend. It's important for us, the people who are at the forefront of those really, really intimate connections. I mean, we literally see people being born, and people transitioning to the next part of life and everything in between. So, of course, why wouldn't a brand want to connect with us because we have such an intimate touch with people in
Hmm.
general all the
Yeah.
time in different in a different variety of areas. But it is also up to us to advocate and promote who we are, because I think a lot of us still have a mentality of, well, we just go work at the hospital and pull our shifts, and that's that. But I'm trying to help to change that mentality that we can do so much more than just what's in the four walls of a hospital system. But yes, visibility. Wow, you really opened my eyes up to working with these big brands. So are you saying that I need to be pitching to these bigger brands, Amelia?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because again, please like go back and listen to this. When I said, a pitch, hey, big brand, I noticed that your audience that you've talked about XYZ with this with your audience, but you did actually mention this, that, and the other. I think that this might be able to serve you, or I've noticed a lot of people struggle with this is how I can help. You have to point out how you can help, how you can serve, how you can add value to them. Um, you have to tell them that they're doing other things, they're so busy, and that's another thing. People who work at these large companies, they're people like you and me. They're
Hmm.
people like you and me. They're busy. They have low bandwidth. They have a lot of things on their plate. And when you pitch to them, just tell them how you need to tell them how you're going to make them a winner, how you're going to make them look good to because they have bosses. They need to. They have bosses. Let them know. Yeah, so that's a whole nother thing. They have bosses. They need to know how you're going to
Hmm.
help them win, how you'll make this, easy, um, and then of course, and how you can add value. And when you do that on a consistent basis, I don't want to say that you'll never hear a no, but I think your success rate will be you might blow your own mind.
Getting a yes will be much easier.
Absolutely.
And it builds your confidence too. It
Yeah.
helps to build your confidence.
Yeah, it does. It does because, and especially, beyond the nursing walls, because that's a whole nother topic about the valuation of nurses within the hospital and without the hospital. I
Hmm.
mean, outside of the hospital
Hmm.
is completely different. I mean, that's part of the reason why I started, my business wasn't necessarily in the healthcare world. It's actually a long story, but it ended up being not necessarily related to healthcare because it was just to me, it was like an easier conversation to have about my value, you know, outside of the hospital setting because inside there's just like a set requirement or a set, like everyone here, we all get paid, this amount. And then that's just what's everyone's used to. But then when you step outside of the hospital and start having conversations with other people, you realize that the capacity for other people to receive and give, oh my goodness,
Mm,
it's a huge difference.
mm. Very interesting. I tell you, you sure are pretty smart. You've been hiding. Yes, you are.
No, 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 no. And I tell people this all the time. My introduction to business, I have my friends to thank. Um, when I didn't say this, but when I was making the decision or graduated high school, I had friends
Mhm,
who were buying and flipping URLs in high school, and they were geniuses. And I looked at them like, do I join my friends in buying and flipping URLs, or do I get an actual degree? So I got a degree. But long story short, those friends who were buying and flipping URLs, one of them's Dante Lee. He has, Black PR, Black
mhm,
PR. In any case, he's doing very well. So growing up, I had that as an example, and he normalized talking with Essence and, partnerships
mhm,
with Steve Harvey. So that was like normal to me. And then I had friends in 2007 that went into the virtual assistant world and started working as a virtual assistant in 2007.
mhm,
And then their clients started to look like they grew and matured. Their clients started to look like Google's and the Facebooks and Oracle's, and they started normalizing working with large companies. So they normalized that like 2007, 2008, 2009. So when I started my own business in 2016, um, that they helped me a lot. They really, really helped me a lot, and that's a lot of what you hear. So it's like people say, "Oh, you sound, blah blah blah," but it's like this is like 20 years in the making, no
yeah.
lie. Literally, yeah. And I'm trying to do better with sharing stuff, but
I like the fact that because here's another thing that I try to help our audience understand is that nursing is not your entire identity.
Hmm.
A lot of times we think that I have a DMP, I have a PhD, and that's that. I'm going to be a nurse for the rest of my life, and that's that. But you're literally utilizing something that is totally not even nursing related per se, and combining it with your nursing and running with it. And so I want people to understand how to utilize your other skills and your other purposes and other gifts in life and not solely just focus on nursing.
Hmm.
Nursing is what it is, healthcare is what it is, and if this season hasn't taught people anything else, it's shaky. It can come and go, and it has peaks and valleys, and it can be all over the place. But you're utilizing something else to reach a whole total different audience, and that is very unique, and I want people to understand the beauty of that. Do you mind sharing anything on that?
So thank you for saying that. And yeah, we are all multi passionate.
Mhm,
As nurses, we're multi passionate. If we could just stick with one specialty for for like 10 years, we'd probably be a nephrologist or cardiologist if that was our
mhm,
thing. If we
mhm,
were able
mhm,
to do that, yeah, we wouldn't choose nursing. Where we could switch up our specialty every 3 or 4 years whenever we get bored. So one, we're going to be multi-passionate by definition, I feel.
mhm,
But also, please know that your education as a nurse, your skill set as a nurse, your ability to assess the situation, diagnose problems and challenges, come up with suggestions that you should implement, and then going back and evaluating the process.
mhm,
That works in the hospital room. It works in the board room. It works, with projects of various sizes. Um, we do project management like all day. We're managing various types of projects.
mhm,
Project management is a thing in the business world. There's people who are paid a lot of money just to come in a situation, assess the problems, figure out plans that people should try, and then telling people to be on their way. They don't actually
mhm,
do anything. They actually leave a project plan for the people to implement on their own or their team. Holler at me if you need me. I'll make myself available for $2,000 a month if you come up with questions, and that's it. Um, and then, of course, there's like the implementers and doers. But in any
mhm,
case,
mhm,
nursing, provide. I mean, it really does train you to think in a term that, I mean, in ways that are highly transferable and
mhm.
highly valued outside of the hospital. um,
It's
you
true.
know,
It's
yeah.
very true. It's just that we're not taught how to do that.
Mm.
We're taught the process as it relates to a patient in a patient situation. We're not really taught how to transfer it to other things for obvious reason. I mean, the hospital doesn't want you going out there starting all these businesses and stuff. They want you to take care of the patient. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But um, the process of getting out there and utilizing ADPI, the assessment, the diagnosing, and so on and so forth, in a
Mhm.
in a whole nother way, in a business meeting, in a business situation, like you're
Mhm.
saying, it works, but we're not taught to think of it differently. We're only taught very straight line towards the patient. Like, how do I assess this patient? How do I take care of them? How do I get them discharged out of the hospital safely? But it's interesting. I've always said that nurses do make good entrepreneurs if we
Mm.
can change the mindset to think in that entrepreneur brain. If
Yeah.
you're still stuck in an employee brain, it's kind of hard to make that shift. But if you
Yeah.
start thinking outside of that box, then yeah, we have the skill sets to do it, definitely.
And I feel like we could have a whole nother conversation about the mindset around that. And I feel like, how I started to be able to learn to see that way because
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily wake up seeing that.
Right.
Um, Podcasts, listening to podcasts, business podcasts, um, listening to conversations that other people were having about blah, 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 and realizing that, what, I know the answer to that, or, I think I can figure that out. I don't know all of the details, like just like in order to take care of a complex patient, we don't need to, be a brain surgeon or
Yeah.
whatnot. We're just able to recognize signs of impending danger and doom. And then, when you start to get used to, looking for, signs of serious concerns and problems and what might lead up to that, and being the person to say, you know what, this kind of follows a pattern I've seen a few times before.
Mhm,
You might
mhm,
want to consider X, Y, Z, and the other. That's just so valuable. And yeah, there's a lot I can say on that. But listening to conversations of non-healthcare people helped me to also sort of identify, like, oh wow, they're being paid to come in and see problems. People are actually being paid to come in and tell people like what tools they need to use. In fact, and I don't want to keep this going, but um, I helped facilitate a $9,000 discovery call, and
mhm.
I didn't know that people would pay $9,000 just for a group to come in and discover problems.
Wow.
Not and here I am giving discovery call. I was since I stopped, but I was giving discovery calls and strategy calls away for free. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm,
and they're like, no, we'll come in for like $9,000 to take a look at what you have, take a look at where you need to go, and tell you what you need to get there. And if you want us to implement that, that was like a whole nother fee
mhm,
structure.
mhm.
But and it was valuable to that group because I could keep talking, but
Yeah, that's a hot
yeah.
topic right there.
Yeah, but they long story short, they didn't know what was going on. I mean, they could have, potentially spent like $30,000 with the wrong vendor. They could have spent $30,000 with the wrong person who couldn't help them. So yes, they wanted to spend $9,000 with somebody to come in and tell them exactly what tools to use and exactly how they needed to look at the problem and exactly what vendor, to look for. And yes, they'll probably end up going with the person who's pointed this out to them, but it was valuable to them. But that's a whole nother thing.
I was gonna ask you, do you work a lot with consultants, actually?
I do. Yeah, I do. So this project I'm working on now, essentially, I was brought in by consultants because of a
Mhm,
strategic partnership.
mhm,
Um, they didn't have need for my services at that specific time, but they had a client project and they needed a skill set, pitching, sourcing influencers and reaching out to them and pitching them on that they didn't have. They didn't have that skill set. They didn't necessarily want to watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos to figure it out. And they remember that Amelia knows how to do this. So they invited me to come into the project to support them.
look at you. Very good. Very good. So, do you offer like train the trainer kind of services? Do you train people to do what you do,
Yes,
essentially?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I just did a program for somebody's community on that. I think the title was it was something about lead generation, like how to generate your own opportunities. But the skill set of being able to scan the world and find opportunities, I think it's a skill set, and I think it's a skill set everyone should have, um, because no one will look for opportunities the way we can. Yes, it's great if you can hire someone like me to collaborate, help you figure out what collaborations that you should have.
Mhm.
But I can't see everything. I can't catch everything. Again, I follow something called the Dream 100. I do a modified 25.
Right, right, right.
So it'd be wonderful, for people to have that skill set of being able to scan the world and find opportunities and go after them and secure them. We'd all be better off. Truth be told, I do believe, yeah, I mean, we're connected. We need one another to do extremely well, to have lots of options to take care of our loved ones, not to have to make hard decisions about taking time off from work, not being
Mm.
limited in the resources that our family members who are sick need. We need to be able to, write checks to charities with, large checks to charities and not have to think too hard about it. I mean, yeah, I'm all for that.
Mm. This has been an excellent conversation, and I thank you for bringing your expertise. I hope to see you more and more often going live or
Yes,
something in the group
you
because
know, can I just say it's like,
Mhm.
so before you put my business all the way out there, let me do it for you. But it's like I just like apparently I just like giving this chick money. I must like it. I must like just giving her money. And that's okay. You've done so much for me and that might be what it is. But um go ahead.
I w well, I wanna see you more and more. My thing has always been to uplift and support our community and, try to in a way, build strategic partnerships to an extent as well, but I like to just think of myself as the connector. I try to connect people who are wanting to get started or people who have that problem and connect them with other nurse entrepreneurs that have special gifts or special um, products or services that they could benefit from. So I definitely can see where what you do greatly benefits the community. I have all the time. I have people inbox me all the time. I'm about to start sending them your way. They, how do I get my this out there, and how do I get that, and how do I market this, and how do I need to get in front of these people and that
Mm.
people. I'm about to start sending them your way
Okay, then
because
I need to start doing more lives.
yes,
I
you've
think
got
so.
to. Yes,
Okay,
I want
yes.
you to because as I said earlier, you are our resident visibility expert. Okay. Um, you are that go-to person in the group that can do that. And I feel like those people who've been in my inbox talking about they need help with those things could truly benefit. And some of this stuff is not extremely hard. You just have to know what you know, you know? So if you get connected with somebody that can really navigate you through, it's just like basic business. Like some of it's not terribly hard. You just need to know to go and get your LLC and your EIN. You know, if you didn't know that and somebody shows you and it's like, oh, that was not that bad. Well, you just didn't know. So
Mhm.
it's the same to me sometimes with these strategic relationships and stuff. And I'm sure, I know you said earlier that you have a little bit of a process that you like to follow or how you like to teach. And I don't, I doubt it's extremely, extremely hard, but it's very strategic and intentional on how you do it. Am I right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah, you are.
right.
Yep.
But yeah, I would like to see you more and more and
Okay.
more.
Okay.
You really helped me. And I tell you one thing. In 2000 and let's see, I started in 15 and around probably 17, I was like, this is a lot, you know. And I remember being so busy. At the time, I was working full-time job. I was going to school full time. I was writing books. I had CPR courses that I was teaching. I was managing B&E full time. Yeah, I don't know. And I still do all of this stuff by myself. So, if you
Mhm.
see me in a loony house one day, you'll know why. But my point is, uh, I didn't know anything about a virtual assistant until you mentioned it. You were like, "Well, maybe you need a VA," and I was like, "What's a VA? Like
Are you
Virginia?"
serious?
I had no clue. I knew nothing
Okay,
about virtual assistants.
got you,
Oh, and
got you.
literally a lot of the stuff that I've learned,
Mhm.
it's so funny, and this is kind of the uniqueness of B&E for me specifically, is I created a group which branches out into an organization for Black nurse entrepreneurs, and I really wasn't a true entrepreneur myself and knew very little about entrepreneurship. I had a crafting business, but it was called Getting Paid for a Passion, and I had to learn processes along the way. And so when you're like, you need a virtual assistant, I was like, somebody gonna tell me what a virtual assistant is so I can go and find this virtual assistant I'm supposed to have because it sounds good, but I don't know what it is. I didn't know
Okay.
anything about that way back then. Now, of course, now I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I know,
um,
but since then, there's like so many, how many batches of new people that have come into the group since then, and
mhm,
and to be quite honest, it's like when I first started my business in 2016,
mhm,
I was showing up and going hard in B&E a lot,
mhm,
because my goal. It's a long story, but I wanted to pay off student loans, so I was like more active and doing a lot more showing up myself. But then, to be quite honest, like after my loans were paid off, it served its purpose, and but I rediscovered my purpose, not my purpose, but my purpose for my business,
mhm,
not all that long ago, to be fully transparent. And I might be, in the midst of rebranding, in the next year.
mhm.
But in any case, that's just so interesting, like how our paths align or crossed. That's so interesting that you said
It
that. Sorry.
is. It is. I love how I feel God specifically places people in our lives for specific reasons. And I've been able to grasp a little bit out of different people in the B&E community that I interact with.
Mm.
I'm able to grasp little bits and pieces from them, and it's helped me, earlier when I was like, "You're so smart," you're like, "No, I got a little bit from that person, a little bit from that one, and that's created what I am now." And that's exactly what happened to me. I took bits and pieces from different people out of the group, and I've listened to them. I watch your lives, I watch y'all's blogs and all sorts of things. So I know a lot about what you guys have going on. But I'm just grateful to have you guys in the community, and I feel like your specific gifts and talents would really serve our community well, because I know so many people struggle with trying to build those relationships, especially in the beginning of their business launching. So definitely, please, 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 please,
Okay.
I'm inviting you back to come in on live more often and stuff, and then
Okay.
people are going to be like, "Where's this lady been?"
Go back to 2016 when I was trying to pay off my student loans.
Oh, so
2017, I
you
was
used this to pay off your loans and then you left us? Is that what this is?
no, my clients, that wasn't the case. Yeah.
No, you know
Yeah.
what? I don't care if that's what you had to do. That's what you had to do, because I wanted everybody to come in there and be
Yeah.
prosperous in whatever way that looked like for them. So, hey, if paying student loans off is what you needed to do, then go right on ahead.
Yeah.
But you do provide a very strong value. And I hope that you yourself feel that. I hope you understand exactly what I'm talking about, and you feel that internally that, yeah, I'm very valuable. That's why I said that you're the visibility queen. So I
Oh,
want you to understand that yourself.
all right. Well, no pressure now.
No, there's no
Goodness,
pressure.
at
We're
all.
all family. We're
Yeah.
all family.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this has been great. What would you say your final thoughts are for our community?
There's a quote that I mentioned a lot. It's from Reid Hoffman. He's a
Mhm,
co-founder of LinkedIn. He's an investor in lots of companies. I don't want to misquote the companies he's invested and helped found, but there's a lot of them that we all know about.
mhm,
He says that opportunities do not float like clouds in the sky. Opportunities are firmly attached to individuals. If we're really looking for an opportunity, we're really looking for a person. Something like that.
mhm,
I have
mhm.
the exact quote over on my Facebook profile, but in short, opportunities don't float like clouds. They're not mysterious. It's not woo. It's not, something we just have to sit, behind our computer screen and attract. They're attached to other people.
Mhm.
And that's all I have to say is like if you are needing more clients or if you have too many clients and you need support with that, your solution, your answer is in another person.
Got it. Got it. That's very good. Well, I thank you. I appreciate you. Again, like I said, you've been there very early on, and I hope that you've seen my evolution in the group.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I
Yeah.
hope I hope you've seen that I become more visible.
Yes, you have in an amazing way.
Good.
It's just blossomed, and because I remember like asking about like why don't you go live, and now it's like I'm just seeing you here, and it's like it's been so cool to see and watch. And so like I said, I mean I don't we could keep talking and we're almost like up on an hour, but thank you for your encouragement and your
Mhm,
support, and for having a community like BNE that gave me a safe place to flex my visibility muscles. To be fully transparent, I had zero social media presence when I first started my business, and having the safe space that you created to show up and get used to doing that. um, Again, apparently, I'm okay, having the privilege of going live every so often. I'm okay paying for that privilege and just sitting here and just enjoying, all the wonderfulness. But you're like, yeah, I hear you too. But thank you for that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, one last thing. Well, a couple of things. I know that you have a social media group on Facebook.
Mhm.
Would you care to speak about it?
Sure. It's a tiny Facebook group. There's like a few dozen. I think it's like 50. That's relatively tiny group called Confident Collaborations. I just
Mhm,
changed the name. And I am wanting to do more collaborations within the group. Just simple like interviews with people talking about what they do, the problem they solve, and who they solve it for,
mhm,
so that possibly they'll do more collaborations with each other.
mhm,
Still working on that. It's a tiny group, but I also have a podcast of the same name Confident Collaborations. I have a podcast that's right now on hiatus, taking a little bit of a break, called The Business of Nursing. And that's a passion project for real, for real. Just straight up passion. And I think that's it. Yeah. Connect with me over on LinkedIn. I'm there, Amelia J. Roberts, collaboration strategist, and other Instagram, Twitter at RN_solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And I'll have everything listed in our biography section too.
Okay.
This will be uploaded to our YouTube as well as our podcast, so everybody can go and either view or listen to it. Okay.
Okay.
So, you have anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Nope. Just thank you for being awesome.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you too. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So that's it for us today. Make sure that you are following us across all of our social media platforms. Join our private Facebook group. And guess what? Amelia, have you downloaded our app?
I have not.
We have an app, guys. We have an app. We have our podcast, obviously. Make sure that you are subscribing to that. Um, Email list, we have it all. There are lots of ways to connect to the BNE audience nowadays. So make sure I'll have all that information in the biography section of this podcast too. So until next time, as I always say, we do not follow trends, we are the trend. So I want everyone to please be safe. This is a very interesting season that we're in, but I feel like that as long as we're planting our seeds in very fertile ground, that we'll come out victorious. So please be safe, but always remember that we are the trend because we set those trends, we don't follow them. Okay. All right. Good night. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Have a blessed weekend because we have a good weekend coming up. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.